Hello everybody, welcome. Basically, this is going to be very interesting on how this reading is going to go. I'm Zoe Alex, welcome. And, in this reading I'm going to provide you is that this is going to be for March 21st to March 23rd of 2025. Now, in this reading, it's not supposed to be an all signs reading. I'm sorry about that. But, there are things that you must learn first in order to understand about how you can believe on how things are. And you have to understand about how it's going to be in this, this criteria of how things are, right? You have to do what you can, do what you're told to do, and you have to be responsible on how things are in that way, in that understanding, and this is how it is. So, we're going to figure out what's going on in this situation, and it's the way of how this opportunity is going to go, and you have to understand about this is the way it is. This is not going to be short and sweet. This is not going to be your tea or coffee situation. It's not that, but you have to believe about how it's going to be in that moment, and that's the way it is in that way, right? So this is the way it seems to be, and this is the way an opportunity about how everything is going to be doing, about how it is. And you have to do what you can to do what you're going to be told to do, and you have to do exactly what you're told to do. Be responsible, be kind, be who you are, be sensitive and everything else. And you think that, well, this is just an opportunity to do that. This is the way it happens. This is how guaranteed it is, and this is the way it is in that give and take situation. And understand that this is the way it kind of goes in that way of saying, all right, well, this is an opportunity to understand this. This is the way you kind of understand it, and this is the way it seems to be, right? So you have to pay attention to your strengths, your weaknesses, your abilities, from how you can do that, and understand about how you can understand this in that way, in that formative way. You have to do what you can and say, well, this is an opportunity to learn, this is an opportunity to do what I can, and this is the way it seems to be. So the further ado, without any question, that I'm going to provide you is that the way of how this is going to be in that way, you have to pay attention on how you're going to be in this way. So I'm going to see what's happening in this wonderful reading, and this is the way it needs to be in that way, and I hope that everything will be all basically how everything is in that way, and you think, okay, well, everything's going to be great, but then this is the way it seems to be. So I'm going to look at what's going on in this opportunity, and this is the way it happens. This is the way it seems to be, right? So we have to believe on how we can do that in one way or another, and you have to believe on how it seems to be, and you think, okay, well, everything's going to be interesting of how it is. So you have to do what you can, and you have to believe that you can do that in the way of how it is, right? So you have to read between the lines, and you have to understand about how this is going to do that in that wonderful dialogue about what's going on in this way of how it is. So you have to understand that this is the way it seems to be, this is the way of how graceful, and this is the way it seems to be. And I'm going to read you an oracle card first, and it says, balance. I bring a state of perfect harmony into my world, and I do so without judgment. When you have basically balance, you have that ability from the right and wrong perspective. But then when you have balance, everything is going to be all balanced. That's the way it goes, right? This is the way of how you can do it, and how you can process your own feelings, your own wants, your own needs. But that's the way it goes, right? So when you have the ability from that right and wrong perspective, that's the way it seems to be. You have to go with the program, and understand, okay, well, this is the way it goes. This is an opportunity to learn, and this is the way of how it is. So you have to understand that when you have balance, you have to balance things out. That's the way it goes, right? That's the way it needs to be, okay? So that's the way it is, alright? So this is how it is, alright? Here we go. So in this welcoming reading here, basically, the Ace of Cups does represent Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio as water signs. The Empress is upright, you're having nourishment. 10 of Swords reversed, there's no conclusions. Just reverse, you're not basically taking action of it. And the King of Wands reverse, there's no charisma, there's no passion, whatever it is. But that's how it is. So we have to understand about how you can do it in the way of how everything is going to be, in that basically about how your wants, your needs, your ways, and you think, okay, well, this is the way it seems to be, and you have to do what you can, go with the program, and understand that this is the way it seems to be in that way, and you have to understand that. So I'm going to clarify. Now, I'm not going to say about the past, but I'm going to clarify about the past because I'm going to understand this. And I go from the Ace of Cups all the way to the left side, Ace of Cups to the right side, Ace of Cups to the middle, and Ace of Cups to the right. So this is a way of how I can do this, and this is the way of how I can grasp this situation, knowing that this is just the way it's going to be, and this is how it's going to play out. So here I'm going to explain what's happening. So let me clarify. I'm going to clarify the Ace of Cups to the Empress. 6 of Swords reversed, followed by the Knight of Swords is upright, followed by the Moon reversed, followed by the 9 of Cups is upright. So basically everything is fulfilled. Everything is doing okay. You could deal with it in Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio as water signs. The Knight of Swords is upright. It does represent drama here, because someone could be a drama queen, drama king, whatever it is. That's how it is. But you could deal with another Gemini, Libra, Aquarius as air signs. That's the way it goes. Now, I said between the Ace of Cups to the middle, as in this Justice card. I'm going to clarify that. The Tower reverse. So it means that you have no progress as it ends up being. Because when you have progress, you have the ability to know. But when you have no progress, everything's not progressing, right? That's the way it kind of is in that, how it is, right? That's the way it goes. So now from the Ace of Cups to the King of Wands, Magician reversed, followed by the 9 of Swords, followed by the 8 of Cups reversed. Yeah, see, you're not having any skill, you don't have any trauma, and you don't even have any entertainment. You don't even have entertainment history, whatever it is. It's basically on how you can do this, but you have to do what you can to investigate on how you're feeling, how you're acting, how you can do what you can. But then it's like, well, this is the way it goes. This is the way it happens. This is how I can do this. That's the way it goes. I'm going to clarify the Magician, the 9 of Swords, and the 8 of Cups. The High Priest is upright. So it does represent, basically you're using your inner voice, and you're being very, you're being very quiet, and this is the way it goes, right? Because when you're using your inner voice, it's like going into a library, and basically you're being quiet, right? That's the way it goes, right? So, because you're using your inner voice, right? That's how it is. Now, this is very interesting. Now, the High Priestess to the Justice, I'm going to clarify that. The Star is upright, followed by the 2 of Wands reversed, followed by the 4 of Pentacles reversed, followed by the 5 of Swords is upright. So, basically, you're using your inspiration, because you could be, having your own wishes upon that way. And the 5 of Swords does represent conflict, because you could be fighting, you're not getting along, that's the way it kind of is. So you could be basically feeling like you're being like an introvert or extrovert or whatever it is. It's like that's the way it seems to be. It's the way of how you can grasp the situation on your own, whether you have this ability from the right and wrong perspective. That's what it seems to be, right? That's the way it kind of goes along, right? Because we have to go with the flow, right? That's the way it seems to be, right? So, things will go in the right place at the right time, exact moment, right? And that's the way it seems to be. So, let me clarify. Let me clarify the left side, okay? The Emperor is upright, followed by the Star is upright, followed by the Temperance reverse. So there is no healing here. There's no healing. The Star is upright, there's inspiration. The Emperor is upright, there's structure here. That's the way it goes, right? Because you have your own structure, you have your own ability, you have that. That's the way it seems to be. Why is the opposite between this Temperance card? Devil is upright, yeah, because you could be feeling obsession, you could be having addictions, whatever it is. There was something happening in that way, happening about that dialogue, happening about what's going on. That's the way it seems to be. So you can be dealing with a Virgo, Capricorn as an earth sign. That's the way it goes, right? So that's what it seems to be, I guess. Right? That's the way it kind of goes. Let me clarify on the right side. Okay, the Hierophant reversed, followed by the Empress reversed, followed by the Sun card is upright. Yeah, so there's positivity because you're staying positive. You can deal with Leo as a fire sign. The Empress and the Hierophant reversed. There was something that was happening in that way. I'm going to clarify that, please. Let's see. The Chair reversed, so there's no progress. The High Priestess, you're not using your voice. But the Strength card is upright. Yeah, because you can have the strength. Yeah, you have the ability from understanding, but you can use that in your own setting because you need to believe on what you're doing and what you're acting, because that's the way it goes, right? You have to believe that you can do it. Believe that you can have your own peace of mind and say, well, this is an opportunity to understand and get a gist of it and how it seems to be. That's the way it goes, right? Because when things are, uplifting or whatever it is, appealing to that situation, you have to understand that, right? You have to do what you can to master your own abilities from the right and wrong perspective, right? That's the way it seems to be. So let me clarify the middle situation. The Judgment reverse. So basically it means that you're not taking any action, okay? Now what's between the Judgment? So I'm going to go from the left to the right. The Nine of Pentacles is upright, followed by the King of Cups reverse. There's no support. But the King of Pentacles is upright, so you could be a working person because you're making money, you do what you can, you're being comfortable, you do what you can. That's the way it seems to be, right? But when you have no support, it's like why you don't have any support? Because things are not going as planned. Things are not going your way. That's the way it goes. So the Judgment to the right side, let me clarify. The Eight of Pentacles is upright, followed by the High Priestess is upright, followed by the Hangman reverse, so there's no restrictions. But the Queen of Cups is upright because there is empathy. Yeah, because there's two sides of the story here. One makes sense, but doesn't. And that's the way it goes. So you could be dealing with a Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio. You could be dealing with a Virgo, Capricorn, or Taurus as a earth signs. That's the way it goes. What's in the middle? The Knight of Swords is upright. Yeah, because there is very trauma in this situation because you're not feeling as great as how it is, and you think, well, this is not going to work out. This is not going to be this appealing. This is the way it is. Because when you have to think about what's going on in that way, you think, well, everything will be fine. It's like, no. Everything is not fine, And when things go south, or when things go sour, or whatever it is, it's not working, right? So you have to believe that you do what you can, but then why we have this? Why we have these feelings and saying, well, we need to understand this. So I'm going to figure out who's who in this situation between the left side, the middle, and the right. So we're going to figure out who's who. So we have on the left side the Ringmaster of Scrutiny. Discernment, clear vision, details. Yeah, so you could be having details because you need to have to learn more of the information because that's the way it seems to be in that way. So you have to feel like you have to be drawn into that situation and think, okay, well, everything will be all great. But then it's like, well, this is an opportunity to understand that. But that's the way it seems to be, right? So this could be a masculine as the man, and this could be basically a Virgo, Capricorn, or Taurus as an earth sign, as a zodiac sign, okay? What's in the middle? You have the Shadow Queen, acquiring knowledge, insecurity, manipulation. Yeah, so you could be feeling like you're being manipulated, right? Because things are not going as planned, things are not going right, things are not going your way. You know, you have to believe that you need to believe on who you are. So if you're being a feminine as a woman, and you could be being a Gemini, Libra, Aquarius as a woman, you have to understand that, right? That's the way of how it seems to be, right? And on the right side we have the Ego King, the big picture, angelic help. That's the way it goes, right? So you have to believe that you have to see the bigger picture. That's what it seems to be in that way. But you could be having a big picture, see it in 3D, whatever it is, because that's how it is, right? You now have to figure out about how big it is, but that's how it seems to be. So you could be dealing with another Pisces, Cancer, or Scorpio as water signs. As the man, as the masculine. So that's how it seems to be in this situation here, right? That's the way it goes. So you have to understand, but you have to go with the flow, and you have to figure out what's going on in this situation. So let's see what's going on here. Let's see. So the Three of Air represents great sadness, take time to heal, the need to forgive yourself or others. You know, that's the way it needs to be, because that's the way it needs to be holding, where you basically forgive yourself or others, or basically you're trying to figure out that you can do it, but then it's like, no, this is an opportunity to be, thinking about what is happening. So I know how you're feeling, but the way of how this is the way it needs to be. So you can be dealing with either Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius as a air sign, okay? The next one, in the middle, it says the Ten of Fire. Too much work, accept help from others, life is out of balance, stress-related health concerns. Yeah, you could be maybe having stress-related health concerns. Maybe you're feeling like, nothing's not going to be expressive because things are not going as planned, right? And you think that everything will be fine, or the way of how this is, because this is the way of how you can do it in one way or another, but then it's like, well, this is not going to end well. That's the way it goes. So you could be dealing with another Shadow Queen as the feminine, but it could be another Shadow Queen as another feminine, as a Leo, Aries, or Sagittarius as another woman at the same time, okay? And let's see what's going on for the right side. Queen of Water, tender-hearted, empathetic, patient, loving. Relationship developed to a new level. Trust your intuition. Care for yourself and others. Yeah, you could be trusting your own intuition. Maybe you're going to use your own gut feelings about what's happening in that way. Because, you think about this Ego King here. It could be where, you being the masculine, but this water sign here, this card that I'm showing you about in this hand here, it means that you could be dealing with another Pisces, Cancer, or Scorpio as a masculine man at the same time. Okay, so you have to believe on how it is in using your own self-control, because that's the way it needs to be in that way. So I can see that. So let's see what the universe is saying here. So let's see what the universe is saying. So I'm going to go from the middle to the left, middle to the right. And then I'll be doing the enchanted map at the last end of the video, just to let you all know. Okay, so we'll go from the middle to the left, middle to the right. See, at the Page of Swords reverse, there's no education. The High Priest of yours, you're not using your inner voice. The Seven of Cups reverse, there's no delusion. Knight of Pentacles reverse, there's no trust. Exactly. The Lovers is right. You're gonna make decisions. That's the way it goes. You're gonna make decisions because that's the way it goes. You have no trust. I don't know why you're not trusting in that way, but this is what the universe is saying. Because you don't have that time, you don't have that way of saying, well, I know what to do, I got this, but then it's like, no, it's not going to end well, right? So you have to pay attention on how you can do it in that graceful situation. You have to go with the flow, you have to pay attention, you have to do what you can, say, well, I got this, I know what to do, but then it's very interesting on how it seems to be. You have to do that, you have to go your own, using your intuition, right? That's the way it seems to be. And you have to think about, well, this is the way of how it goes, okay? Now, between the middle and the right, Queen Wands is upright, so there's charisma. Two of Cups reverse, there's no relationships. Taurus reverse, there's no healing. Five Pentacles upright, there's insecurity. Two of Swords is upright, so you're in the crossroads. You don't know which direction you're going to take, basically left or right, but that's the way how it is. So I'm going to clarify, if you're going left, let's see. So if you're going left, you have no, the 10 of Pentacles yours, there's no wealth. You're not even having wealth, okay? That's why it is. When you have no money, it's like there was something happening when you have no money. It's very wrong. It's very, how it is, right? That's the way it happens. If you're going on the right side, I'm going to clarify that. Five of Swords is upright, so you're going to have revenge. You're having conflict. You don't know how you're going to act like that. That's the way it goes, right? Because when you have to think about it, you have to think what's happening in that way, in that how it is, and that's how it seems to be. So you could be dealing with Gemini, Libra, Aquarius as air signs, as zodiac signs, and that's how it seems to be. What's happening doing this Ten of Pentacles here? Ace of Swords reverse, so there's a misunderstanding. That's the way it goes, right? Because when you have a misunderstanding, that's the way it happens in that way, right? What's also with this Ace of Swords here? The Six of Wands is upright because it does represent achievement. Yeah, because you're achieving about something. But it does represent that. So you can be dealing with Leo, Aries, or Sagittarius as a fire sign. As a zodiac sign, that's the way it seems to be in that way, in that suitable how it is. And you have to do what you can. So let me read you the enchanted map so you can hear my beautiful voice. This is the way it needs to be in that format. So I hope you all like this video, and this is the way it seemed to be. let's see what's going on here. Let's see. So let me see. Basically, number 13 is reversed for solitude. So this is going to be very interesting, isn't it? Interesting. So this is going to be reversed. And it does say here, let me read you the reversed of it. And it says right here, it says, too much solitude results in isolation and separation. Now is the moment to get together with friends and join in the merriment. Hiding out will lead to loneliness and negative thinking. Separation at this time isn't a healthy choice. Are you in a situation in which you feel alone? You need to share this, not keep it to yourself. By joining in with others, you will hear what you need to know, because Spirit finds ways to speak through them without their even knowing it. You have the key to let yourself out of this prison. You are loved and never alone. So basically, it means that when you're feeling like when you have no solitude, and things are not going as planned, things are not going as they are, and you're feeling isolation, separation, things are just not going as planned, and you think, well, this is not going to end well. It's basically that feeling, right? It's basically on how everything is be like a stepping stone in that way, and you have to think about, well, this is the way of how it goes, this is the way of opportunity, this is the way of how I can proceed with caution, whatever it seems to be. And the way of how this is, the way of how this, I'm not going to say this problem, but I will say it, is, solve a problem to find a solution, right? And that's how it is. But then there are many ways where when you feel like you're feeling isolation, you don't know what to do, you're having health problems, you're stressed out, the way of how I can see it, in my own point of view, you have to pay attention on how it is. This is the way of how it is. This is the way of how you can proceed with caution. But that's the way it seems to be. So you have to be who you are, and you have to do what you can. But that's how it seems to be. Alright? So I hope you all like this video. Please give it a like. Please give it a comment and enjoy. And this is the way it seems to be. Right? And thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Thank you, and bye.